Good afternoon. This is Clark Neighbors with BIS Commodities on Friday, April 24th. With kind of summary for the week in the markets. Heavy continuing sideways trade in the grains with some pressure here late in the week. Three things we'll focus on today, helping with this pressure. Planting progress in the weather, the continued downward momentum in the charts, stocks, continued lack of movement, and bird flu. Now for the week, corn is down about 15 cents, wheat down 8 cents, and beans were actually about a penny higher. Record stock market close here, it looks like, for the week. Crude oil is down about 40 cents on the week, and we did see the dollar a touch lower. Again, planting progress focuses on next week. That seems to be the fundamental reason why the corn market saw pressure here late in the close on Thursday and also following into today on Friday. December corn futures reaching the lowest close since October 10th, closing below that 395 area yesterday, which first closed below that level in quite some time, and continued to see pressure today. Now, fundamentally, the market still feels heavy. As far as beans are concerned, they held in there pretty well. The corn-bean ratio has been more focused on strength in the beans here of late, so we'll see how that plays out. Keep in mind, South America is winding down bean harvest in Brazil, making good progress in Argentina, and we continue here talk about a good crop, or better crop than expected, with record production in both Brazil and Argentina. That supply is going to be a factor going forward as far as the beans are concerned. Momentum has been talked about a lot. Basically since the Christmas holidays, momentum has been down. Again, lowest close in D's corn since October 10th. We continue to see lower lows and lower highs on a corn chart here over the last, since basically in 2015. Support, we will see obviously this time of year with the funds being short, is uncommon. And obviously as you get into the next 60 to 90 days, any kind of weather scare can create that fund short to disappear, but we'll have to see if that occurs. Stocks movement, the stocks continue to be a concern longer term, both for the corn and the soybeans. Movement is absolutely non-existent. I've had some people say that movement in the country over the last 30 days is the quietest they've seen in several years, especially for this time of year. Producer continues to be very lackluster on moving any grain or have any interest in doing so at this point with current prices. As we progress through planting time, we'll see if some of this old crop wants to move. Now keep in mind a quick little stat, if you will. If you look at the stocks report that came out about a month ago, the corn stocks on the farm in Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, those three states on the farm, represents 420 million more bushels than a year ago. Those 420 million bushels in on-farm stocks could run every ethanol plant in the United States for 30 days. So we get back to the supply is there, but how about the available supply? And because of lack of movement and the available supply, the basis continues to be fairly strong. Ethanol margins are good right now, thus creating the ethanol industry to continue to grind at a fairly good pace. That is one factor on the demand side that continues to be fairly positive. We'll see on the feed usage and the export usage going forward. As far as feed usage, keep in mind cattle on feed report out this afternoon on Friday. Cattle on feed came in at 100% versus a year ago at 98.6 versus a trade guess of 98.6. So that would be bearish cattle, a little positive on the feed side. Placements 100%. Trade guess was 94.5. Again, that would be bearish, presumably bearish the cattle market, and possibly a little positive to the corn as far as for feed use. The other thing, the last storyline throughout the week that seems to be more of a storyline than a real factor in factoring in changes in the supply and demand, is the bird flu situation. As of now, about 7.1 million birds have been killed due to bird flu. That's about 1% of the U.S. flock. Now keep in mind, on the cold storage report out earlier this week, it showed poultry, pork, and beef supplies in the coolers well above a year ago. So in regards to raw meat supply, it should be a limiting factor. It may have some impact on the turkeys going forward. And when you're talking less than 1% of the, or about 1% of the flock, that in its own, unless we see continuation of this in big fashion, it's not going to have a big impact on corn or meal usage. Of the two, it could have more impact on meal, especially in localized areas. So again, next week the market will focus on planting. Weather looks, at this point, weather forecast looks good, where we should see some rapid increase in corn plantings throughout most of the Midwest next week. Trade's looking for something in the mid-teens as far as the amount of planting on the report that will come out this coming Monday on the 27th. So that will be a focus. Weather will be a focus, and obviously the amount of movement in stocks going forward with old crop, with about 4 months to go until harvest time. If you have any questions, feel free to call us here at the office in Cedar Rapids. Phone number is 800-373-2525, or BIS Commodities on the web. And with that, have a great weekend.